Who was Steve Jobs? Steve Jobs is a name which is world-renowned for his innovation, technology at Apple Incorporation. Stephen Paul Jobs was an American inventor, designer and entrepreneur who was the co-founder, chief executive and chairman of Apple Computer. Who changed the way people live, work, play, and communicate? Steve Jobs' parents and adoption. Jobs was born to Joanne Scable, later Joanne Simpson, and Abdul Fattah John Jandali, two University of Wisconsin graduate students. They were the unwed couple at that time, so they decided to give away the baby for adoption. Jobs was adopted by Clara and Paul Jobs and named Stephen Paul Jobs. Early life. Jobs was born on February 24, 1955, in San Francisco, California. He lived with his adoptive family in Mountain View, California, within the area that would later become known as Silicon Valley. He grew up with one sister, Patty. Steve Jobs' education and college. As a child, Jobs preferred doing things by himself. He showed an early interest in electronics and gadgetry. He spent a lot of time working in the garage workshop of a neighbor who worked at Hewlett-Packard, an electronics manufacturer. While Jobs was always an intelligent and innovative thinker, his youth was riddled with frustrations over formal schooling. In the year 1972, Jobs went ahead to study in Homestead High School in Cupertino. After high school, Jobs enrolled at Reed College in Portland, Oregon, from where he dropped out after a year to take up further education in philosophy and foreign culture. In 1974, Jobs took the position of video game designer with Atari. Steve Wozniak and Steve Jobs. Back when Jobs was enrolled at Homestead High School, he was introduced to his future partner of Apple Computer, Wozniak, who was attending the University of California, Berkeley. Founding and leaving Apple Computer. In 1976, when Jobs was just 21, he and Wozniak formed their own company in the Jobs family garage. They called it Apple Computer Company, in memory of a happy summer Jobs spent picking apples. They funded their entrepreneurial venture by Jobs selling his Volkswagen bus and Wozniak selling his beloved programmable calculator. The Apple II went to market in 1977, with impressive first-year sales of $2.7 million. The company's sales grew to $200 million within 3 years. In 1980, Apple Computer became a publicly traded company, with a market value of $1.2 billion by the end of its very first day of trading. In 1984, Apple released the Macintosh, marketing the computer as a piece of a counterculture lifestyle, romantic, youthful, creative. The failure of the Macintosh signaled the beginning of Jobs' downfall at Apple. Jobs resigned in 1985 from the company he had helped found, though he retained his title as chairman of its board of directors. Next. After leaving Apple, Jobs began a new hardware and software enterprise called Next Incorporated. The company floundered in its attempts to sell its specialized operating system to mainstream America, and Apple eventually bought the company in 1996 for $429 million. Reinventing Apple. In 1997, Jobs returned to his post as Apple's CEO. Just as Jobs instigated Apple's success in the 1970s, he is credited with revitalizing the company in the 1990s. With a new management team, altered stock options, and a self-imposed annual salary of $1 a year, Jobs put Apple back on track. In the ensuing years, Apple introduced such revolutionary products as the MacBook Air, iPod and iPhone, all of which dictated the evolution of technology. In 2008, Apple became the second biggest music retailer in America, second only to Walmart, fueled by iTunes and iPod sales. Apple has also been ranked No. 1 on Fortune magazine's list of America's most admired companies, as well as No. 1 among Fortune 500 companies for returns to shareholders. Steve Jobs and Pixar. In 1986, Jobs purchased an animation company from George Lucas, which later became Pixar Animation Studios. Believing in Pixar's potential, Jobs initially invested $50 million of his own money in the company. 9 years later, Pixar released Toy Story, a huge box office hit. Pixar later went on to make Toy Story 2, Finding Nemo, A Bug's Life, Monsters Incorporated. All these films have been extremely successful. Pixar's films have collectively netted $4 billion. In 2011, Forbes estimated the majority of Jobs' net worth at around $6.5 billion to $7 billion from his sale of Pixar to the Walt Disney Company in 2006. Wife and children. Jobs and Laurene Powell married on March 18, 1991. The couple met in the early 1990s at Stanford Business School, where Powell was an MBA student. Laurene Powell is an American business executive and founder of the Emerson Collective. Powell controls and runs the Stephen P. Jobs Trust. They live together in Palo Alto, California, with their 3 children, Reed, Aaron, and Eve. Battle with cancer. In 2003, Jobs discovered that he had a neuroendocrine tumor, a rare but operable form of pancreatic cancer. Instead of immediately opting for surgery, Jobs put off surgery for about 9 months, chose to alter his pesco-vegetarian diet while weighing Eastern treatment options. In 2004, Jobs had successful surgery to remove the pancreatic tumor. True to form, in subsequent years Jobs disclosed little about his health. Early in 2009, reports circulated about Jobs' significant weight loss, some predicting his health issues had returned, which included a liver transplant. He went on a 6-month leave of absence. After nearly a year out of the spotlight, Jobs delivered a keynote address at an invite-only Apple event on September 9, 2009. However, in January 2011, Jobs announced he was going on medical leave. In August, he resigned as CEO of Apple, handing the reins to Cook. Steve Jobs' death and last words. Jobs died in Palo Alto on October 5, 2011, after battling pancreatic cancer for nearly a decade. He was 56 years old. Movies. Jobs' life was the subject of 2 films, 2013's Jobs, starring Ashton Kutcher as Jobs, and 2015's Steve Jobs, with Michael Fassbender playing the Apple co-founder. Jobs once described himself as a hopeless romantic who just wanted to make a difference. Quite appropriately, like the archetypal romantic hero who reaches for greatness but fails, only to find wisdom and maturity in exile. And older, wiser Steve Jobs returned triumphantly to save his kingdom.